Dear listeners, a new day and a new story to discuss. Today, I'm going to tell you a story that interests me. Listen and write down what you think about this situation. I'm interested in your opinions. Listen, I'm not the kind of guy who opens up easily. But here we are, you and me, and I've got a story that's been eating at me. It's about love, or what I thought was love. It's about betrayal, the kind that rips your heart out through your spine. Amelia and I, we were something else, you know? 15 years. 15 years, and I thought I knew her. I thought she was mine, that we were solid. But here's the thing about trust. It's a house of cards, and mine was about to be blown down by a hurricane named betrayal. It started with whispers, the kind that nag at you in the dead of night. Changes in her, little things at first. She'd laugh differently, dress differently. Stay out late. It's just work, she'd say. But come on, who dresses up for a late meeting with spreadsheets? I hired a PI. Yeah, I became that guy. The one who spies on his own wife. You judge me, but you weren't there, feeling like a damn fool in your own home, questioning your own sanity. 3 months later, I got the proof. Photos, videos. God, the videos. It was like a punch to the gut, seeing her with him. Laughing, touching, more. I confronted her. No dramatic showdown at a fancy restaurant. Just us, in our kitchen, where we'd shared meals and dreams. Is it true? I asked. Simple question. Her face went white, guilt written all over it. But she didn't answer. Just stood there, silent, and that silence screamed the truth louder than any confession. I was vindictive, yeah. I'd imagined 1,000 ways to make her pay, to hurt her like she hurt me. But seeing her there, the weight of her betrayal crushing her, I realized something. Revenge wouldn't heal me. It wouldn't bring back what we had, what I thought we had. So what now? She finally whispered. Her voice was broken, barely audible. I don't know, I said. And that was the truth. The raw, painful truth. I didn't know what came next. All I knew was that our life together was a lie, and no amount of revenge or anger could change that. The room was heavy with the ghosts of our past, the air thick with the ruins of our love. And there, in the midst of our shattered dreams, we stood, two strangers bound by the remnants of a life that was no more. I walked away then, not because I was the bigger person, but because I was broken. Because I needed to find a way to breathe again, to live in a world where the person I loved most was the one who destroyed me. This is just the beginning, the unveiling of the truth. And truth? It's a double-edged sword. Cuts both ways. Hurts both the bearer and the listener. So, here I am, bearing my soul to you. And it hurts like hell. Let's get one thing straight. Love makes you blind. But betrayal? That sharpens your eyes like nothing else. So here I was, Alexander, thinking I had it all figured out with Amelia. 15 years, 2 kids, and a house that was too quiet at times. But it was ours. It's funny, isn't it? How the smallest things start the biggest fires. It started with her phone. Always on silent, always face down. Innocent, right? Wrong. One night, it buzzed incessantly. It's just work, she'd say. But work doesn't text you at midnight with a hey, you up? Last I checked, anyway. Then, there were the clothes. Dresses that clung to her like second skin, the kind she never wore for me anymore. I'm just trying to feel good about myself, she'd argue, voice laced with something like truth but tasting of lies. I wanted to believe her, God. I did. But belief is a luxury I couldn't afford anymore. You're acting paranoid, Alex, she'd tell me, her laugh a little too sharp, a little too quick. You really think I'm cheating? The question hung between us, a guillotine waiting to drop. I started following her. Not my proudest moment, I'll give you that. But what choice did I have? Trust had left the building, and suspicion moved in. I saw her, laughing a little too freely with someone who definitely wasn't just a work friend. My heart didn't just sink, it plummeted. I confronted her, once, twice, thrice. Each time, her denials became more elaborate. It's not what you think, she'd plead. But what I thought was becoming clearer with every whispered lie, every secret smile she thought I didn't see. Then, the smoking gun. A receipt for a hotel room that wasn't for us. It was for a friend, she claimed. I was darting away. A friend. Right. Because friends need secret hotel rooms booked under your wife's name. I laid awake at night, replaying every moment, every lie. The woman I shared my bed with, my life with, had become a stranger. A stranger who thought she could play me for a fool. But here's the thing about being pushed into a corner. You learn to push back. And push back hard. Amelia wanted a game? Well, I was about to show her I could play it better. She thought she was clever, hiding her tracks, spinning her web of deceit. But she forgot who she was dealing with. I started my own game, collecting evidence, biding my time. Because when I strike, I wanted to make sure it hurt. Not just her heart, but everything she thought she could hide from me. Love? It turned into a battlefield, and I was gearing up for war. The suspicion that stirred within me wasn't just a whisper anymore. It roared, loud and clear. Amelia, my dear, you have no idea what's coming for you. The night was draped in a silence that felt more like the calm before a storm. I had everything laid out, the evidence of Amelia's betrayal, the screenshots, the receipts, and that damning video. My heart was a block of ice, cold and hard. The time for confrontation was now. I need to talk to you, I said, my voice steady, betraying none of the turmoil within. Amelia looked up, her face a mask of innocence that almost made me laugh. Almost. What's wrong, Alex? Her voice was laced with concern, but her eyes, they darted away too quickly. Sit down, I commanded more than I requested. She complied, a frown marring her forehead. I could see her mind racing, trying to piece together the reason for this sudden seriousness. I found something interesting today, I began, my voice calm, almost detached. I watched her closely, noting every flinch, every flicker of guilt that crossed her face. What did you find? She asked, her voice barely a whisper now. This, I said, sliding the photos across the table towards her. The photos of her and him, laughter in their eyes, intimacy in their posture. Her face paled, a hand flying to her mouth. Alex, I can explain, she started, but I cut her off. Explain? What's there to explain? Amelia, that you've been lying to me? Betraying me? The words tumbled out, sharp and accusatory. It's not what it looks like, she insisted, her voice desperate. Not what it looks like? I echoed, my laughter bitter. I'm not blind, Amelia, or stupid. She reached out, her hand trembling. Please, let's talk about this. We can fix it. Fix it. The concept seemed ludicrous. How do you fix betrayal, Amelia? How do you undo the lies? We can try counseling. We can work through this, she pleaded, tears brimming in her eyes. I shook my head, disbelief and anger swirling within me. You think a few therapy sessions can mend what you've broken? I love you, Alex. I made a mistake, she sobbed, the tears finally spilling over. Love. The word tasted like ash in my mouth. You have a funny way of showing it. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. I can't do this. I can't be with someone I don't trust. Alex, please, she begged, her voice breaking. I looked at her, really looked at her, and what I saw was a stranger. The woman I had loved, trusted, and built a life with had vanished, replaced by someone I no longer recognized. This is over, Amelia, I said, my voice final. The decision carved itself into the space between us, immutable and stark. As I walked away, her cries echoed behind me, a haunting melody of regret and despair. But my path was clear. The confrontation had laid everything bare, leaving nothing but the remnants of a love that once was. In the end, it was not just about betrayal or the lies. It was about respect, trust, and the realization that some fractures are too deep to heal. The house felt different walking back in, like stepping into the remnants of a life that once brimmed with laughter and love, now just a shell echoing with the ghost of betrayal. Amelia's sobs had turned to silence, her tears to a quiet resignation. But for me, the storm was just beginning. I sat in our living room, the darkness enveloping me, save for the dim light of the lamp casting long shadows. This room, our room, was a witness to the unraveling of a union I thought unbreakable. My mind raced, every thought a sharp jab reminding me of the chasm between us. The phone buzzed. Texts from friends, calls from family, the world outside trying to pierce my bubble of isolation. But I ignored them all. What was there to say? That Amelia, the woman I built my life with, had torn it all down? The thought left a bitter taste in my mouth. I heard her footsteps before I saw her, each step a heartbeat in the silence. She stood there, at the edge of the room, a figure shadowed by guilt. Alex, her voice was a whisper, barely breaking the silence. Can we talk? I looked up, meeting her gaze. What's left to say, Amelia? I'm sorry, she said, the words heavy with a sorrow that seemed too vast to contain. I never wanted to hurt you. Sorry, I echoed, the word feeling hollow. You destroyed us, Amelia. And for what? A fling. It was a mistake, she insisted, her voice trembling. A mistake. I stood, anger coursing through me like fire. You call destroying our family a mistake? I don't know how to make this right, she admitted, defeat lining her words. Make this right? I laughed, the the sound harsh and unrecognizable even to my ears. You can't. Some things can't be undone. She reached out, a futile gesture to bridge the gap that had yawned wide between us. I stepped back, the distance a necessary barrier. Where do we go from here? She asked, her voice so low it was almost swallowed by the surrounding stillness. We. I questioned, the word foreign now. There is no we, Amelia. Not anymore. The realization seemed to hit her then, the finality of it etching into her features. She nodded, a silent acceptance of the chasm that had opened between us. I'll stay with my sister, she said finally, her voice devoid of the fight that once defined her. I'll move out tomorrow. The words should have brought me relief, a sense of victory in the aftermath of betrayal. But all I felt was a profound emptiness, a void where love once lived. As she walked away, her steps echoed a finality that resonated deep within me. The fallout of her betrayal wasn't just the end of our marriage, it was the shattering of a life we built together, piece by painstaking piece. Sitting alone in the dark, I realized the true cost of betrayal. It wasn't just the broken vows or shattered trust. It was the death of the future we were supposed to have, a future now lost in the fallout of decisions made in the shadows. And as the night stretched on, the silence became a companion, the only witness to the ruins of a love that once promised forever. In the aftermath, the world seemed a barren place, stripped of color and warmth. The path before me was shrouded in the fog of betrayal, every step weighed down by the anchor of my broken heart. Yet, in this desolation, a flicker of something stirred within me, a yearning, not for vengeance, but for something far more elusive, healing. The house, once a shared sanctuary, now felt like an echoing chamber of memories and regrets. Amelia's absence was a constant presence, her shadow lingering in the corners of every room. It was in this solitude that I found myself speaking to her, not the Amelia who betrayed me, but the one I had loved. Why? I would ask the empty room, the question hanging in the air, unanswered. It was a futile gesture, I knew, yet it provided a strange comfort, a way to voice the agony that clenched my heart. I sought solace in routine, the mundane tasks of everyday life offering a temporary respite from the chaos within. Work became my refuge, a place where I could lose myself in the demands of the day, only to return to the silence of an empty house. It was during one of these evenings, drowned in the deafening quiet, that I stumbled upon a box of old photographs. Each image was a portal to the past, a reminder of the love that once bound us. My hands trembled as I sifted through them, the smiles and laughter captured in those moments now tinged with the pain of betrayal. I confronted Amelia again, not in person, but in the solitude of my mind. How could you? I whispered to her image, the words laced with a sorrow that transcended anger. The realization dawned on me then, stark and unforgiving. Healing wasn't just about moving past the betrayal. It was about confronting the pain, acknowledging it, and somehow finding a way to live with it. I began to write letters to Amelia that would never be sent. Each word was a step on the path to healing, a way to untangle the knot of emotions that held me captive. With every letter, the weight on my chest lightened, the edges of my anger dulled. Forgiveness, I penned one night, the concept foreign and yet strangely compelling. It wasn't about absolving Amelia of her sins or pretending the betrayal never happened. It was about releasing myself from the hold it had on me, about choosing to not let it define the rest of my life. The path to healing was not linear, marked by moments of backsliding into the depths of bitterness, only to emerge once again into the light of understanding. It was a journey fraught with challenges, each step a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. In seeking healing, I discovered a strength I never knew I possessed, a capacity for forgiveness that transcended the hurt. The path was long, and I was still traversing it, but with each step, I moved closer to a place of peace, a place where the scars of betrayal no longer held sway over my heart. And so, I continued on, guided by the flickering light of hope, knowing that while the wounds of the past may never fully disappear, they would not define my future. The dawn of new beginnings wasn't marked by fanfare or grand revelations. It came quietly, a subtle shift in the light that filtered through the curtains, casting the shadows of the past in a softer hue. It was in this light that I found myself contemplating the journey that had led me here, to a place of quiet resolve and hard-won peace. I won't lie, the bitterness lingered, a bitter aftertaste of the betrayal that had upended my world. But with time, that bitterness began to fade, eroded by the steady drip of days filled with purpose and self-reflection. The path to healing had been arduous, paved with the pain of confronting truths I would have rather left unspoken. "You seem different," a friend remarked one day over coffee, the steam from our cups mingling in the air between us. "Different how?" I asked, genuinely curious. Lighter, somehow. Like you've let go of a weight that was holding you down. I pondered his words, realizing with a start that he was right. The weight of my anger and resentment had lessened, leaving space for something new to take root. It wasn't forgiveness, not exactly. It was acceptance, the acceptance that what had happened could not be changed, but how I chose to move forward was entirely up to me. I turned my focus inward, channeling my energy into rediscovering the man I was before the betrayal. I picked up old hobbies that I had let fall by the wayside, and in the process, I found joy in the simple act of creation, whether it was the strum of a guitar or the stroke of a brush on canvas. I'm thinking of starting over, I confessed to my reflection one morning, the face staring back at me almost a stranger. A new city, a new job, a new life. The idea was daunting, yet exhilarating. The prospect of leaving behind the remnants of my old life, with its ghosts and shadows, and stepping into the unknown was like drawing a deep, cleansing breath. The decision wasn't made lightly. I weighed the pros and cons, the ties that bound me to this place, this life. But in the end, the pull of new beginnings was too strong to resist. I sold the house, the scene of so much joy and so much pain, and with it, I closed the chapter on a significant part of my life. "Are you sure about this?" a colleague asked on my last day at work, his expression a mix of concern and admiration. "I've never been more sure of anything," I replied, my voice steady with conviction. The day I left, the sky was a brilliant shade of blue, unmarred by clouds. I took it as a sign, a benediction for the journey ahead. The road stretched out before me, leading to a future unburdened by the past. In the rearview mirror, I watched as the city skyline faded into the distance, a tangible reminder of all I was leaving behind. But my gaze was fixed on the horizon, on the possibilities that lay ahead. New beginnings, I discovered, weren't just about changing your surroundings. They were about changing yourself, about shedding the skin of who you were and stepping into the identity of who you could become. And as I drove towards my new life, I realized that the betrayal, which had once seemed like the end of everything, was, in fact, the catalyst for the most significant transformation of my life. It was a painful lesson, but one that taught me the true meaning of resilience, of the capacity for renewal that lies within us all. So, here's to new beginnings, to the promise of a fresh start and the endless possibilities that await. Here's to the journey of healing and the discovery of strength in the face of adversity. Here's to moving forward, not with forgetfulness, but with the wisdom gleaned from the scars of the past. And to you, my unseen confidant, I leave you with this. Life, in all its complexity, is a tapestry of experiences, some dark, some bright, but all woven together to create the unique masterpiece that is you. Embrace it, with all its imperfections, for it is in the imperfections that true beauty lies.